as you may know from the last few episodes, I've been talking about getting into local squash league. I've never done a squash league before, and I was kind of reflecting on the competitive mindset of an athlete. So a couple episodes back, we kind of spoke about that. And what I'm trying to do is, usually as me, my character, I'm not a bad loser. I'm not a sore loser. And I wanted to figure out whether or not kind of trying harder, putting more effort, could that lead to disappointment that ultimately that I don't like? And that's why I don't try harder, because I don't like the disappointment. And it's personal disappointment with myself in this particular case, because it's a one-on-one sport. So I played my first league game and won, which was against my buddy Jack. And then I played my second league game, which was against a stranger that we've never played before, because Jack and I have played, so we kind of know each other's games a little bit. So this is first time stranger, and I lost. Now, what was interesting, I was reflecting on, I tried harder, but then I didn't feel sad because I knew that he was just slightly better than me at that in that game. So I think then there's no disappointment or like bad feeling. Now, fast forward to yesterday, Jack messaged me to say he's played the game with the same guy that I played last week and won. And instantly I was like, gutted, because I want to compete well. And of course, there is a bit of like competitive nature between me and Jack. So I was initially gutted. Then I texted him to be like, awesome, well done. Like, that's really good. Because his love language, or one of his love languages, is encouragement, affirmation. So I was like, awesome, well done for you. And then Kimmer was in the room, so she saw me spiraling, be like, oh, I need to try harder. I've got 3 games left. I need to win these 3 games, like trying to strategically like make this happen. And then Kimmer, I allowed Kimmer to message Jack to be like, yeah, Dan's spiraling, knowing that you've won. And then he said, oh, actually, I've written it wrong. I actually lost. Which then I was like, oh, awesome. That feels like I've now won. So Jack has lost one, won one initially. So we're equal, but he's beaten me on points. And then instantly he says, oh, actually, I'm joking. It was actually the other way around. I then was like, oh, awesome. It feels like now I've won a game, even though I've not played a game. So I thought it was funny how I've gone from, disappointed because I want to win. I want to be better. So I need to focus now on my next games to kind of get out this league, because I don't want to, it's 5 players, 2 go up, 2 go down, one stays in the division. So I thought it was really interesting that when I felt that he'd won one, I was like, he's getting better than me. Although we're both very good. We're both quite equal. I don't want him to get away. So there's a competitive nature that came out, which is interesting. And that made me focus on, right, I need to take seriously these next 3 games to make sure I win them. Yeah. And then the second part of like, as soon as he said, oh, he made a mistake, he was joking, I wet myself laughing, not literally, figuratively speaking, because I thought it was funny that he did that. And then I feel like I've won a game somehow. And the fascinating nature of that is like, there's some aspect of like, maybe it's because, every now and again he wins, every now and again I win. So we're kind of like to and fro on how we win. Is it because I feel like sometimes I can beat him, therefore I want to beat him overall? Versus, oh, this person is beyond me, so I can't beat them, so it's okay, so I don't feel so passionate about it. So I thought that was incredibly funny, of the flip-flop of competitive versus not. And the fascination that I literally had not played a game. And because he said, oh, actually, he lost against the same guy that I lost against, that it felt like, oh, great, I feel like I've won now. So the whirlwind of emotions around like trying harder, disappointment, or kind of like focus on, right, I need to win these next 3 games now, and the strategic nature of that, versus the forward facing, like, well done, man, like really happy for you kind of thing, and that's like, I should do that anyway, because that's good to do regardless of whether or not, I'm like, right, I need to beat him now, because it's not about, not encouraging somebody for doing something good, even though, now I need to do some more. So
I thought you were going to do
what's your thoughts on?
I thought you were going to do that classic chat of obviously pre him telling you he lost again, but if he won, to be like, it's because I tired him out, because that's a classic one of being like, I took all the punches, you just got the knockout.
Yeah, I gave him the strategy to win. That's why I was like, well, he does this, yeah. And it reminds me of that. I'm not sure if you've seen the meme where there's a guy wearing a mask and he's absolutely crying behind the mask, but the mask is a smiling face. So I very felt that it was that in the moment of the initial thought. Then he flipped it, and I thought it was incredibly funny. And I was just, being encouraging, credit where credit is due and all. So, I'm finding it incredibly fascinating to examine this competitive mindset, because I'm not the sporty one. So it's interesting to kind of like go into that, which is probably new. It might be new for people listening. It might not be. It might be like, well, of course you're going to feel those things, because I play football every week, or I play hockey every week, or I go swimming every week, or whatever it is, do competitive stuff. But yeah, what's your thoughts on how you would reflect in the same kind of situation?
I think, I'm not entirely sure. I think I would probably congratulate, because I'm normally quite good at encouraging others off the bat, but internally, I'd be like, I need to beat everyone to then push him down. Like, because at the end of the day, if it is 2-up, one stays, because those are the bits that you're probably aiming for. And if you I started at the bottom, now I'm here. Like, you want to be promoted. So basically, you're going for 2 spots. And if your mate has won, basically, you're like, okay, I need to take the other position.
Exactly right. We need to ride together, as it were, bad boys for life type approach.
But to be fair, I think a new sport, a new challenge. I know you've done squash for years, but not on like a competitive level, more socially.
You say years. I've done it 6 months when I was a kid.
Still, that's years. Those professional golfers that are professional when they were 12 maybe. And then sacked it off. It's like, actually, it's as if you're starting from fresh again. So I think it's giving you that grace period of, I think I wouldn't care because I've not invested enough into the sport, into the lifestyle or whatever. I'd be like, I'm just finding my feet. What does this look like? With my adult brain, if I went into a new sport now, obviously I'll be absolutely livid if I was a kid. Like with hockey, I used to destroy my weekend if I lost. Obviously I wouldn't show it outside, because you still want to have a good time and enjoy your weekend. But I think internally you'd be like, I understand it when professional footballers say they lose on Saturday and they basically can't do anything till Monday, or don't want to do anything. It's like depression based off losing or winning. It's like, I totally get that. I don't enjoy it, and I wish I didn't have it, but I totally understand it.
It's like so 2 things. It's like the choice of like disappointment and prolonging the disappointment. Right, the suffering of that. So there's pain in the loss, but the suffering thing can be elongated because you still go back to the disappointment thing of the pain point. One extra thing I noticed when I played Jack the first time, I was a little bit more quieter because I wanted to kind of get it right and focus on strategy. And I found that was fascinating, because I've had that incident before where you're a little bit quieter, less chatty before something happens. Like if you're doing a public talk, you're a little bit more like internal focused, and you're less like friendly and chatty. Whereas when I did the second game, I was able to chat and stuff and still perform, but obviously lost the game. But it's fascinating when you're trying to focus. Sometimes you go like quiet. And I'm always fascinated with people when they're able to still converse and have this chat, and then go onto stage right now, that they're not needing to get into a zone of focus before something. So the differentiate, I don't necessarily, I think ideally my preference is to be like, we can chat and then I can beat you in this game. And the chatting doesn't like throw me off the focus, basically. Yeah. And I think that's the ideal situation. Although when you're initially starting something, you'll be like quiet, in on yourself, and you won't be able to like speak or like have much new information delivered to you. Is
the chat more of a social chat, or is it like getting in someone's head, like pretending that you've got some injury so they go easy on you, or say like poking them out on stuff?
It's more so just
starts at the start.
Yeah, the game started before we got on the court, isn't it? So it's not necessarily like the strategic kind of like trying to throw somebody off or get into the ring. Just like if it's any sort of like social conversation, right? Like a social conversation with anybody. It reminds me of, I shadowed this guy that was our old church leader when we went to this event, and he was meeting a load of people before then he needed to do a talk. And he met a load of people taking all this information and having proper conversations. And then he was like, right, I just need a few minutes to run over my talking points before I do the talk. So I was like, cool. He's able to do all this stuff, and then he just needs that 5 minutes beforehand. So I've done something similar where like I've done a talk and I need focus and I can't speak to anybody. But then now I'm like, actually, I can speak to people and it doesn't throw me off doing the talk. So it's a fascinating like focus thing. And my ideal state is that I can have a full on conversation and be super in the moment, and then switch and be in the focus moment when it needs to happen, and also succeed in that moment, like deliver a good speech or win a good game kind of thing as well. So I thought that is fascinating. But yeah, the decision to hold like the disappointment or the kind of like the suffering of that moment. I remember somebody saying that they allow 24 hours. You can be sad for 24 hours. After that 24 hours, I think it was like in one of those American football documentaries. 24 hours, you can be like sad about stuff, but then after the 24 hours, right, we get back and train.